So, what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
Vince, as always, we'll start with you first. I don't know why. I just arbitrarily picked you to go first forever. But
that's funny.
Where does Trapped in Paradise 1994 rate on your Cageometer?
I'll put this at a 4 out of 10. It's not god awful. We've seen some god awful films, but it's not great. Like, you can see, we talked about it. You can see the story that they're trying to tell and the fun that they're trying to have. It just falls flat. Like I said earlier, if they would have tightened this in 90 minutes, I think it would have been a lot better film. Mm-hmm. They got rid of Cletus and Dinglehead. that whole subplot would have helped out too. That was just wasted time. It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I think he really could have used a rewrite, taking the core of it and punching up a lot of the jokes and bringing a little more heart into it. So I'm not gonna shit on it too much, but definitely not a great movie. Definitely not the worst we've seen. Mm-hmm. As far as Nick's performance, same. Probably put him around 4 or 5. I'll go 4 because I don't think he did an awful job, but at the same time, his performance is just all over the place. We talked about his accents, just all over the place.
Yeah,
and I don't fault him so much for that because this movie really doesn't feel like it was guided very well. That's why I feel like there might be some credibility to Lovitz's comment about them not getting a lot of direction, but yeah. And then, like I said, I definitely felt like there were scenes where you could tell it was towards the end of the shooting and they just all didn't give a fuck and they were just doing whatever the fuck they wanted or having fun. And he just, I don't know, he didn't really. I personally think John Lovitz stole the movie because his performance wasn't over the top. It wasn't under. It was like just kind of just played really well on all different levels in his interactions with people. Versus Nick was a little more kind of just bland for the most part. And then when it wasn't bland, it was like typical over the top Nick Cage, which I personally love. But when we have to compare the movies like Mandy and Pig and Gone in 60 Seconds, I can't put it above a 5. That's my rating for movie and Cage.
Nigel, where do you rate this masterpiece?
So you said that one reviewer called it borderline unwatchable, and I'm right there with it because emphasis on the borderline. I feel like this movie didn't have enough in it to make it good, but it didn't have enough in it to make it terrible. It's right there. I'm going to call right down the middle with a 5 out of 10 because it had enough like intentional or unintentional comedy to keep it entertaining. I laughed out loud at a few scenes just because it was the absurdity of it or just the line delivery or just the the way that certain things played out, like it's got scallions, whatever, or feel like a dog right over there looking at me, it just comes out of nowhere and it's hilarious. But the script sucks. Like the story is just completely contrived, and it's just like they just made stuff up so that they could keep the story going along. It could have done with a rewrite. Again, if they were going for a theme of lampooning Christmas movies and satirizing them a little bit, I think it would have worked a little better. Kind of use that black comedy angle to make what seems like a family-friendly Christmas movie, but also is really not. It's about 3 bank robbers. Tonally, it was kind of weird because of that. Like there's like whiplash between what's being done in certain, like the graveyard scene when he's opening his heart up to Sarah. It just like comes out of nowhere and seems like it's from a different movie and is really weird, but then it just goes right back to doing screwball comedy stuff. And there's this like weird like Danny Elfman-esque musical score playing through the whole time where it's like peak 90s family movie music, but it's like it doesn't match what's going on in the scene. Like even with the horse and buggy or the horse and sleigh cop car chase, it's like this weird jaunty music that doesn't really match what's going on with it. I noticed that a lot. It almost feels like parody. It's like these movies, Home Alone has this kind of music, let's just throw this into every scene that's going on. These 3 idiots robbing the bank. I hadn't heard of this movie beforehand. I don't have any desire to watch it afterwards. I've already forgotten some of it. I only watched it 2 days ago, so it's just sort of there. It's like it's not awful, it's not good. It's It's a decent movie. So again, 5 out of 10. Nick Cage, I'll give him a 6 out of 10 because I do think he made the movie a little bit better with his performance of it. It's not great. It does seem like every single line he delivers is a Nick Cage line somehow. Like this of all movies seems like he's giving a weird cagiest delivery of stuff. But again, if you took him out of the movie and you just had like Alvin and Dave, and I don't know who you get to play Bill, or if you didn't have anybody playing Bill, this movie would suck. It wouldn't work. So he definitely adds to it and adds some of that comedy to it. He didn't do anything special. It's not like Bill's a great character or a memorable character, but it's almost more like it's just Nick Cage, the character, isn't it? So
he's just kind of the straight man. I think people forget that Nick Cage has really good comedy chops. You know, it was kind of like the first thing I ever saw him in was a comedy, and he was great in it, and he's really funny in it, and like they kind of just cast him as the straight man, and I think he probably deserved better in this film. And
well, I think even
to play off of those two morons.
We got the feeling that they were doing improv in some of the scenes, and I think even when he's doing that, he's still kind of funny the way he delivers stuff. The way he over-exaggeratedly points or just says things in a weird way. It's funny. It adds to it. So I'll give him a 6. Not a great score. A little bit better than the movie itself for it, but nothing too memorable. And I don't think this is a movie anybody really needs to watch. Be a skippable. It's not a holiday classic.
No, it isn't. But I guess I'll jump in on mine. It's on my Cageometer. I gave it a 4. But it's such a nostalgia thing for me. It's like Vince with Gone in 60 Seconds, where he just like he sees that it sucks, but you can't help but love it just because of the relationship you have with it and like memories that you have watching it. Because like when I was a kid, I really loved this movie, but like when you look at it with a critical eye, it is not a good movie. And I understand why it was so hated by the critics now. When because I hadn't seen the movie in a long time, when I was like researching ahead of time before we actually watched the movie, I was like, God, people really hated this movie. Why? And it's like, I get it now. Like after really examining it, if you don't look at it with a keen eye and just kind of like, it's just a fun, stupid holiday movie to just kill some time with. It's a fun movie, and there are a lot of really funny moments throughout. Like, I don't. We bashed it throughout here, but I don't really mind the Dana Carvey thing as much as like some people. Some people really hated it. Like, it just more kind of takes you out of the movie of like, why is he got to talk like that the whole movie?
Why do we have this dopey character? Like,
and then John Lovitz is John Lovitz, and I agree with Vince. I feel like John Lovitz kind of stole his scenes and was more of the kind of like grounded character in the movie. Like Nick Cage's character is sort of all over the map. Like he's moral one minute, and then he's just like, fuck it, let's rob this bank the next minute, and then he's moral again, and like, is that going to happen afterwards? Is he going to just go back to
they set the movie up with that. Like, he steals the wallet, but then he feels bad about it, and he goes to confession, and he confesses it. But like,
I still wonder if he kept the wallet.
Probably. Even the priest is like, you haven't been here in 5 years. Why did you just lie to me about being 2 months or whatever since your last confession? So it is kind of, he's inconsistent, but it's also consistent for the character. He's like not a good guy. He just pretends he's a good guy.
I still enjoy the movie. I would watch it again. But having done it on this show, it kind of like opened up the Pandora's box of like all the little conveniences, all the little weird things that just are inconsistent throughout. As far as Nick Cage, I gave him a 5. I thought he did. I mean, I found him genuinely funny throughout the movie and enjoyable. But at the same time, he is all over the map. Like, his accent comes and goes throughout the thing. And maybe that is, again, putting blame on the director, which we've done quite a few times throughout this show. Maybe George Gallo was, like, super burnout after Midnight Run. And I think this was his first movie after that. And he just didn't want to put the effort into it. And, like, he hasn't done, like, a major big movie since. So Trapped in Paradise kind of ruined his career a little bit. Though he did do like a bunch of Midnight Run pseudo sequels with Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. I don't know if you guys
Really? No, I didn't know that.
It's super weird. But there's like 3 of those. They were like made for TV movies that are just direct sequels to Midnight Run starring a different guy, which is funny. But that's where his career went after Trapped in Paradise, and I don't think he's done a whole lot since. I think he still writes and contributes to things, and he apparently came up with the story for at least the first Bad Boys. Handed it to Michael Bay, and Michael Bay filled in the explosions. But so I can't like really criticize Nick Cage too bad. I think I think he held his own with these 2 guys who are kind of, comedic powerhouses who both have their own unique styles, of course. Dana Carvey, as we said, just kind of picks a character and runs with it every time he shows up in a movie, which shows exactly why Dana Carvey isn't in a lot of movies. Because, like you guys said with the Master of Disguise movie, where he's just kind of like a weird-ass character
it's
randomly
like
over and over.
A leading man. That's what happened.
Yeah. But I feel like Nick Cage held his own, and there were a lot of really genuinely funny moments, especially when he's like going all wholesome with Mrs. Anderson, like calling her Mrs. A, and then he turns around and just yells at his brothers the next second. Like, that stuff really, I thought was really funny and still enjoy. And that's what I remember most about this movie is like, here's these 2 dopey idiots, and then there's Nick Cage just yelling at them the whole time. Him being the straight man is kind of a rare treat for like a comedy, because usually he's the straight man in serious movies or action movies and that kind of stuff. But he doesn't really get to play off of other funny people very often. They don't put him in many comedies for some reason, which is a shame, because I really feel like Nick Cage has great comedy chops.
Yeah.
But 5 out of 10. So that gives him, I think the movie, we're a little over a 4 and a 5 on Nick Cage through the whole thing.